Today is Saturday, August 27th. When it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic, we're in a much better spot today than we have been the last couple of years. Still, public health experts want people to be aware of steps they can take now to avoid another surge this winter, especially with flu season right around the corner. Our guest today is epidemiologist and data scientist Dr. Jetelina. She has a popular newsletter on Substack, and you may know her on social media as your local epidemiologist. She works in health policy at Meadows Institute and is a senior scientific advisor for numerous nonprofit and government agencies. She was even recently invited to the White House to share her expertise. Well, today, she's giving us a snapshot of where the pandemic stands right now, like how most new COVID cases are people who are getting it for the first time. We're also talking about the updated booster shots on their way, and I ask her a more personal question about vaccines for kids. Then what she's expecting for this year's flu season, and she offers us some hope for a future with no COVID-19 at all. Welcome to the Newsworthy Special Edition Saturday, when we sit down with a different expert or celebrity every Saturday to talk about something in the news. Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for our regular episodes, where we provide all the day's news in 10 minutes. I'm Erica Mandy. It's now time for today's Special Edition Saturday. Dr. Jetelina, thank you so much for joining us here on the Newsworthy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So first, how would you describe the state of the pandemic right now in the United States?
We are in this really weird phase right now. Epidemiologically, this virus isn't slowing down. It is mutating 4 times faster than the flu, and it continues to really put us through these case waves that we're seeing. I think, though, from a mom perspective, from a civilian perspective, we're in a very different place because we just see severe disease becoming less and less common because of our immunity walls, because of our vaccinations, and because of our treatments like antivirals.
An Omicron subvariant is currently dominant, I believe. So what are some of the key things to know about that particular subvariant, and what are you watching for next?
That's right. So Omicron continues to mutate better and better, chipping away at our immunity. And so it's able to mutate to create these new waves of infection. It looks like every about 2 months, every 3 months. We actually hope that Omicron continues to mutate. And the reason that's good is then, one, we can predict where this virus is going for updated vaccines, as well as prior immunity will be able to protect us better than some random variant that pops out of nowhere.
What about reinfections? If somebody recently had COVID-19, should they feel safer that they won't get it again anytime soon?
Right now, we are seeing an uptick in reinfections. What's really important right now is to recognize, though, that of the cases we do have, what is vast majority dominating is first-time infections still.
So word is that another booster shot from both Moderna and Pfizer could be coming out sometime in September, I believe is the latest report. What do you know about those boosters so far, and who might be eligible?
This upgraded formula is called bivalent. So it combines Omicron vaccine formula as well as the original vaccine formula together in one shot. I would be very surprised if they didn't do a sweeping recommendation. Everyone over the age of 18, go get your COVID-19 fall vaccine. But we actually haven't had very much clarity at all about who will be eligible.
And to be clear, if the general public was eligible for this new booster shot, that would mean that people would skip over the second booster shot that up until now has only been for basically senior citizens and those people whose immune systems are compromised.
Those that are under 50 will be skipping that second booster and going straight to that Omicron-specific booster this fall.
Okay, so in terms of the current COVID-19 vaccines available for kids, now available for kids as young as 6 months old, do you think that they are really necessary? And what do you want parents to know about them?
They are very necessary. I am a parent of 2 under 5. So actually, my girls got their second dose today of Moderna. Even though a majority of cases are mild and moderate among kids, there are still quite a few very severe cases among kids. It is a top 10 leading cause of death for all kids under 18. And these vaccines are incredibly safe and they are effective. And so when we need to start weighing benefits and risks, it's very clear that the benefits continue to outweigh the risks, even with these smaller kids, and even if those kids have already been previously infected.
I want to be honest about something because I'm sure I'm not the only parent who's running into this, that I talked to my son's pediatrician, who I trust about a lot of things, and she told me that she's not really sure that he needs the COVID-19 vaccine, especially since he already had COVID back in December. And even as a news reporter, that's confusing for me to have, one of our family doctors say that maybe it's not needed. What's your response to that?
That's right. My response is I'm not very surprised. I do think that is one of the reasons why we are seeing suboptimal vaccination rates in the United States, specifically around kids, because parents really trust pediatricians, and they are the most trusted source of information on COVID vaccines for parents. And just like you said, unfortunately, 1 in 3 parents say they talked to their pediatrician and their pediatrician didn't recommend it. I mean, generally, I'm very disappointed in that. I think the science is incredibly clear, and I think that pediatricians should really try and educate themselves why there is a need, even if a child has previously recovered.
So it is that time of year when kids are heading back to school or have already started. Anything particular you think parents should know about this back to school time?
Each one of these years we go back to school during a pandemic. I think it's nerve-wracking for parents. I think it's stressful. And I think that the new year will bring new challenges during a pandemic. I'm very curious about how, for example, the flu will be co-circulating this year with COVID-19. And I'm very curious to see how many schools leveraged improved ventilation and filtration for schools and classrooms, and how that will or will not help their kids out as well.
Do you think masks should still be a thing in schools?
I don't think that they should be mandated. It is clear that kids, especially if they're vaccinated and are up to date on vaccines, have a very, very good bubble around them and protect them very nicely. I do think, though, that we need to come from a place of empathy and teach our kids that it is okay to wear a mask and it's okay for other people to wear a mask, and that everyone really is in a different spot in their comfort during this pandemic.
Still ahead, what to expect for this year's flu season and where those predictions actually come from, and what Dr. Jetelina says was done poorly with this pandemic, and the advice she shared with the White House about how to better respond to any future outbreaks. And finally, she offers some hope about a life without COVID at all. But first, a quick break to thank our sponsors. The Newsworthy is brought to you by ZocDoc. Before you book any brunch, you pore over lists and lists of reviews, right? So why not do the same when you're booking a doctor's appointment? With ZocDoc, you can see real, verified patient reviews to help find the right doctor in your network and in your neighborhood. After all, finding the right doctor is just as, if not more, important than finding the right plate of eggs Benedict. ZocDoc is a free app that shows you doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, and are available when you need them. On ZocDoc, you can find every specialist under the sun. When you're trying to straighten those teeth, fix an achy back, get that mold checked out, or anything else, ZocDoc has you covered. Go to ZocDoc.com, find the doctor that is right for you, and book an appointment, in person or remotely, that works for your schedule. Go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then start your search for a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc, ZocDoc.com/newsworthy, ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. The Newsworthy is also brought to you by Indeed. You almost never hear great business leaders say they did everything on their own. And there's a reason for that. Great businesses have great teams. And to build a great team, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Indeed lets you find great talent faster through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. I love when a platform makes things easy by providing everything you need in one place. Like Indeed assessments help take the stress out of the interview process. Your candidates get to prove themselves before you even interview them. So start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/newsworthy. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/newsworthy. Indeed.com/newsworthy. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Now back to my conversation with Dr. Caitlin Jetelina. So you mentioned you're interested to see how the flu season pans out. What do you expect at this point?
The Southern Hemisphere has their flu season before us in the Northern Hemisphere. And so we usually look at Australia and how they're doing with their flu season. And they just got done with their flu season and it was bad. They had a really tough flu season. And so I am a bit nervous, honestly, about this upcoming flu season in the United States. We haven't had a twin-demic with the flu and COVID yet. And so it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out.
And some of the symptoms might look somewhat similar, right? So what's your advice for someone who's maybe having symptoms about whether it might be the flu versus COVID?
That is such a good question. I mean, regardless if it's the flu or COVID, especially with kids, they just need to stay home. We don't want either of them circulating. I think that I will be leveraging at-home antigen tests very regularly with my kids, even if it's just the sniffles, and especially if we're going to go see grandparents, for example, because I just don't want to risk it, even if grandparents are fully vaccinated. And so I would just, pay attention to symptoms, really loop in your pediatrician. They'll be able to help you tell if it's what virus it is, and really just take step 101 and let them rest and recover.
And let's be really clear in case there's any confusion. Can you talk about whether or not COVID-19 vaccines protect for the flu? I mean, I believe right now that's a separate shot, correct? And then also talk about COVID-19 tests and whether or not that also tests for the flu.
Unfortunately, our kids are having to get two separate vaccines. So the flu vaccine is very different than COVID-19 vaccine. And then testing, yeah. So these at-home antigen tests just test for COVID-19. I do know that there is an FDA-approved test that tests the difference between flu, COVID, and RSV. I don't think it has been distributed widely, but I do think it is coming down the pipeline, which I think would make our lives as parents a whole lot easier during the fall and winter seasons.
So I know you were invited to the White House recently to talk about how the U.S. can better respond to the next pandemic. What advice did you share?
As an epidemiologist, the biggest thing I ask for is for data. We have an incredibly fragmented, underfunded public health system in the United States. And because data flows from local to national, it is impossible to get a real-world picture of what's going on. For example, real-time data on vaccine effectiveness. We don't have that with COVID-19, and we don't have that with monkeypox, and we really need to fix that. For example, we also don't know who's going and getting the monkeypox vaccine and if we're doing equitable distribution. And then the second aspect is really continuing to fund our efforts for next generation vaccines. For example, nasal vaccines or a pan-coronavirus vaccine, which is a variant-proof vaccine. And these are, our current vaccines do an amazing job keeping us out of the hospital, but these next generation vaccines can truly stop transmission and getting infected in the first place. And that would get us out of this pandemic.
Did I hear hope that COVID-19 could one day be gone?
I mean, there's a possibility, and I am optimistic about it, but people need to realize that that takes funding and that takes engagement from stakeholders like Congress. Back in 2003, during the SARS epidemic, we were making strides with vaccines, but then once SARS faded away, we cut off all funding. If that didn't happen, we could have had a vaccine much quicker during this pandemic and much more lives could have been saved. So we have to get out of this panic and neglect cycle of public health and just really have a continuous, comprehensive response so we can be prepared for really anything in the future.
Obviously, communication with the public is so key about public health. And I think a lot of people would agree that there were some errors made during the process of COVID-19 when it comes to communication. Do you agree with that? And what lessons, if any, do you think have been learned as we think about diseases that may spread either now or in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 1,000%. I think that is one of the reasons my newsletter really took off to levels I would have never imagined, because there was no communication. I would argue the communication is still very terrible. I think we've learned a lot. I think we need to learn how to prevent and address circulating misinformation, that we need to treat that as a virus as well, that we need to predict where it's going and how to prevent it. Equally important is concurrent proactive communication, telling the public what we do know, and more importantly, telling them what we don't know. So when we get a new piece of information that, hey, we need to put our masks back on, they're along for the ride and they can understand why that's needed and how our information and our knowledge is changing in real time. And that just hasn't been done with COVID-19. And unfortunately, it's not being done with monkeypox right now either. And I think that's really going to stunt our progression in stopping these viruses.
And something we think a lot about as a news organization is how do we inform to help keep people safe without causing unnecessary alarm or anxiety? What's your take on how to balance that?
I think just really being frank. A lot of scientists don't like admitting when we don't know something. We're supposed to be looked at it like we're supposed to know everything, and we just don't. And I think that we as scientific communicators need to do a much better job at communicating that and telling people what we don't know and how we're trying to find that answer.
Anything else you want to add or just a final takeaway?
It's been a really long 30 months. And I think that if you are up to date with vaccines and are doing the best thing you can do to stop transmission to really high risk people like grandparents and great grandparents by taking antigen tests, by maybe wearing masks at really crowded indoor areas of high transmission, you're doing the best you can do. You have a big, great bubble around you, and you're also protecting those around you as well. And so I think this is just going to be our new normal going forward, where we're going to have to put SARS-CoV-2 in this repertoire of risks we see every day.
Be sure to find and follow Dr. Caitlin Jetelina under the name Your Local Epidemiologist on social media. And you can get more public health science broken down for everyday use by subscribing to her newsletter on Substack. We'll, of course, keep you updated right here on The Newsworthy as we learn more about the new booster shots and who is eligible to get them, along with the rest of the news you need to know every day in our regular 10-minute news roundups Monday through Friday. So we'll be back on Monday. Until then, have a great weekend.